Well, good evening, everybody. Happy to have you joining us tonight. My name is Rick Zeiser. I'm the Dean of Admission at the University of Hartford, and I want to thank you for taking time out of your evening to join us for this, what promises to be a really wonderful conversation. It's a wonderful conversation because we have a panel of parents of current students who have generously offered to speak to you about topics that that you will find interesting or that you want to get their perspective on. Just a word of process. There are many questions I'm sure that you have that, you know, in my role that I could answer and talk about, but this is an evening that's not about the University of Hartford staff or the Dean of Admissions talking about things that you want to have a discussion on. There's plenty of time for that in other events. Tonight is, what would you like to hear from the parents of current students? Perhaps that you know, that you hadn't thought of asking before, or things that you want to question or be reassured about, or whatever it is. So please try and limit your questions to topics that that parents of current students would be comfortable and able to answer. So with that advice, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Victoria Sandoval, who works very closely with the parents of our students, and I will turn it over to her. Victoria.
Thank you, Rick. Hi, everybody. Good evening. It's so nice to be here with all of you tonight. I'm thrilled that you are all joining us for a wonderful session that we have with wonderful current parents. So as Rick said, I'm Victoria Sandoval. I'm the Associate Director for Parent Engagement and Philanthropy here at the university. And I work very closely with current parents on exploring ways in which they may be interested in getting involved and ways in which they may like to be more connected with the university. So as all of you join the UHart family this fall, I hope and look forward to getting to know many of you. And with that, I will hand it over to our wonderful panelists. They are going to introduce themselves before we then kick it off with all the different questions that you have for tonight. So I have Danielle and Ron in the first screen here. So I'm going to call on them first to introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm Danielle D'Amato, and this is Ron. We have two students at UHart. Our oldest daughter is a senior in the Barney School. She's an economics and finance major with actuary science minor. She's been highly involved at UHart. She's been highly involved in Red Key, which is the organization that does a lot of the tours on campus. Red Caps, which does, like, among other things, they do the orientation for incoming freshmen. She's been involved in that all 4 years, and it culminated in actually having one of the lead jobs with orientation as the student. I don't know the exact title, but it was more like the student director who worked closely with the university director to get the students in orientation. She's also very involved in Student Government Association, which she's had the VP of Finance, which is the job on campus that oversees all of the clubs that the students are involved in and allocates all of the funds. So that was great. And then we also have a sophomore there who's in the College of Education, Nursing, and Health Professions. She's in radiology, and she's not as much of a joiner in those other things as our oldest daughter is, but she found her path by joining a sorority and doing a lot of activities with the sorority in and around campus. So she's part of Delta Gamma. So that's our story. We have the two of them there, and that was not actually by design. It was random, but we're thrilled that it happened that way.
Thank you, Danielle and Ron. Celeste, I have you next.
Hi, good evening, parents. So my name is Celeste Evans. My daughter is a freshman, so you're going to get the freshman perspective in a pandemic. She is a mechanical engineering major with acoustics, which is really quite unique to UHart. And she plays the flute in addition to love of math and science. We are from New Jersey, so a little bit of a ride. And she's getting involved in various organizations like the National Society of Black Engineers and National Student for Leadership. So there's a lot to do, even this year during challenging times, because UHart has done an amazing job of trying to coordinate with the pandemic and allowing that a college experience for the entire year. So it's looking forward to getting your questions and learning more about what you guys need to know.
Thank you, Celeste. Grace?
Hi, everyone. My name is Grace Vasquez, and I'm from New Windsor, New York, so I'm like 2 hours away, straight on 84. My daughter, Tiana Vasquez, she's a sophomore. I almost forgot what grade she's in. She's a sophomore, and she is a bio pre-med major. She is also a D1 athlete. She plays lacrosse and is involved in a ton of things, including she's a tutor, she's a preceptor, she is a volunteer at the Hartford Hospital. She's also doing research, neuroscience research with Dr. Koob. She's involved heavily on both the academic side and with sports on and off campus, and still has time to just send me pictures of her enjoying the beautiful campus like all the time. So she's very, very happy there. And I'm excited to answer any questions about UHart, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Grace. Michelle, I have you next.
Okay, hey, great. Thanks for having me. My name's Michelle Holt, and I'm here tonight to speak of my senior, Mason. I am a mother of 2 sons, and so Mason is my oldest. He's the first to go to college, and it was very exciting. I have a freshman that's in Manhattan at college, so 2 very different children, very different experiences. Mason's experience at University of Hartford, he's a senior, so we are looking forward to graduation and in May. And his experience has just been tremendous. I mean, from the very beginning, he embraced the community. One of the things that drew him to University of Hartford was the campus life, what he saw from his visits, and also the Facebook communities and the different roommate communities that were coming up. He just saw himself there. We are from East Granby, Connecticut, so we're really only 20 minutes down the road. But I have to say that he has stayed on campus all 4 years. I thought we'd be seeing him all the time. We don't, which is fine. He's great. His experience there has involved getting involved in club sports with golf initially. He then really embraced an extracurricular activity through the Formula SAE, which is the Society of Automotive Engineers. And he has become captain of that team, and they are competing on a national level in June with a Formula race car that they built and devised the whole competition around the design and such. So his experience at University of Hartford has been tremendous. He again is graduating, and he is a mechanical engineer. I'm sorry if I didn't say that already. But the program that he's enjoyed there has really met his personality. It had all the hands-on experience, all the hands-on activities that kept him interested, and everyone there has been great. I'll speak to other points about his career, but that's just a little orientation. Thank you.
And Renee. Thank you, Michelle.
Hi, everybody. So glad you could join us this evening. I'm really excited to be here because we just love University of Hartford. My name is Renee Kasha. My son, Jake Mancuso, is an illustration major at Hartford Art School. He is a junior this year. He is also on the executive board for the Smash Brothers video gaming club, which has now become an esport at University of Hartford. I have 3 children, so 3 college kids, and University of Hartford was the perfect fit for our son. I look forward to answering your questions, and also wanted to let you know that I'm one of the administrators on the University of Hartford Parents Facebook page. So I hope you all join us over there if you have any additional questions that we can help and support you with.
Thank you, Renee. I'm glad you mentioned the Parents Facebook page as well. So with those introductions, I'm going to pass it back over to Rick, and he'll get us started with our first question.
Yep. And what I forgot to say, friends, is the best way to get the most out of our time together is for you to post questions in the Q&A. And I had intended on asking you to do that while everyone was doing the introductions. But we're here tonight to answer your questions. So put them up there, and we'd like to get to them. You know, there's some of them are oh, well, here's one, Renee, right off the bat. How do we find the Facebook Parents page? What is it called? That's a simple one.
Here we go. So if you head over to Facebook and you type in University of Hartford Parents, up will come the page. You will have 3 questions to answer, and the admins screen each member of the group so that we only have parents coming in. Sometimes we have students who want to join and hear what the parents are talking about, but we don't allow students in, only parents. Super easy to find, super easy to answer the 3 questions. And we let you in within a matter of hours once we are able to head over to our phones and check out the Facebook page.
Okay, great. Well, here's a very good general question. What should we know or be aware of that we haven't thought about, Victoria?
Yeah, that's a great one. So, so who would like to take that one? Something that, can you repeat that one, Rick?
Yeah, sure.
Just so I can say it out loud to the group.
Yeah. The question is, what should we know or be aware of that we haven't thought about? We probably should have saved it to the end.
That is a good one. That's a good wrap up one.
All right. So
I think we save that one as a wrap up. Yeah.
Okay. How about
there's
any lessons you can share about meal plans and food for freshmen? How about that one?
Yes. So we can, I know that Danielle and Ron and Celeste, I think, have some stories about the meal plan, some information to share.
Sure. We'll share some. So the meal plans, our students are our daughters are very heavily involved in picking out their meal plans. Meal plans have 2 parts to it. They have swipes and they have dining dollars. Our daughters love the meal plans that have the most dining dollars, even though the swipes and dining dollars can be used in similar places on campus. Dining dollars basically can be used anywhere that they serve food on campus, and swipes are predominantly used at the commons, but they can also be used wherever they serve food, like the student union or Moe's or Subway on campus, things like that.
Yeah, and I'll just add to what Danielle said. Yeah, you definitely want to make sure that you choose a plan that has variety of being able to do that. So both swipes and going around campus, because I think my daughter used that quite a bit. And so she's able to count how many swipes per semester that she's using, and then making sure that she uses that up, because she really likes to go on campus at the off cafeteria locations. So yeah, definitely make sure that there's options, and do that early so that they can try it out at least for the first semester. And whatever doesn't work, they can have an opportunity to adjust it for the second semester.
Yeah.
Oops, they have rollover too.
Yeah, it strikes me that we're all throwing around terms that we understand that they may not like. People I'm sure are saying, what the heck is a swipe? Or what is rollover?
Good
So,
point.
Celeste,
So,
explain how people, can eat in different meal options. A swipe gets you into the dining hall, but the other options like dining dollars or
Yeah, so there's certain restaurants that,
meal equivalencies. There's all these weird terms.
so the swipe, every time your student would go into the cafeteria for whatever meal, every time they would swipe. So so back in the olden days when I went to college, very olden days, that was the only option we had. You go in the cafeteria, you swipe for each meal, and you leave and what have you. But this is so much better because, they could decide not to go to the cafeteria at all day, and then just use their dining dollars at the cafeteria, at the store, which my daughter loves, actually pre-shopping for certain fruits and vegetables, actual fruits and vegetables from the store, and other ready to make meals, and she can actually put that in her refrigerator. So your dining dollars, you can use it across campus anywhere else other than the cafeteria. So hopefully that's a little bit more clear.
Thank you, Celeste.
Lots of good questions, Victoria.
Yeah, a lot of great questions. We have one, someone is asking about campus life. So what is that kind of living on campus experience like? And how did you feel? The second part of the question is, how did you feel once your student decided to dorm on campus? So I think Michelle has some information on that, and Renee as well.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Victoria. I'll jump in, and then Renee, for sure. So for campus life, it was an evolution process. We started Mason's first year. His original roommate ended up breaking up with him in the first, by the end of the first semester, but didn't tell him, but through friends he found out. So it was, a little drama, but it all worked out great because the floor mates that he had met freshman year ended up being the guys that he wanted to room with the next year. So when they were able to go apply for housing, they kind of got together. So they went into the suite of the village buildings and became suite mates. And they have been together for the 3 years, sophomore, junior, senior year. And, it's an evolution. So as incoming freshman parents, you'll get a picture, an idea, the roommate they start with, but it'll all go well, but just don't be afraid of change, because sometimes change does happen, and it worked out in our situation, Mason's situation. He made some of the best friends, and they were the best influence on him, and I think has really been the recipe to his success at University of Hartford is the friends he made early on, and it's been great. That's me.
Jump in also. One of the things we love about University of Hartford is that there's sort of like a gradual release of responsibility in regards to housing. So the first year, the first and second year, actually, my son lived in the neighborhoods. And now he lives in the villages, which gives the kids a lot more freedom and responsibility. He met his friends through the Smash Brothers gaming club, and they're all living together. They're having a grand time. I will say the hardest part was on myself and my husband, because we also wanted to give this gradual release of responsibility to our son and to allow him to explore living on his own. And yet we missed him terribly. And so it's like, how do you as a parent balance the needs of your child to explore their independence, and yet your need to come to an understanding that your relationship with them is going to change?
Thank you, Renee and Michelle. I think it might be interesting too. I believe that Celeste's daughter lives in a super single this year. So I think it might be interesting to hear a little bit about that student life experience, that dorm experience as well.
Sure. Actually, if it's okay, I also saw a couple of questions about what it's like living in a pandemic and all in the bathrooms and all. So I'd like to answer that as well.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah. So so she isn't a super single. It was important for me to know that if campus was gonna be open, I wanted to make sure that she didn't have to worry about a roommate perhaps having different habits than she did, and COVID or any worries. So me not knowing anything, I felt like it was a good option, and I was very happy that the school offered the option of a super single. So what a super single is a room that was identified for 2 people, but I paid a little extra so that she has, the room to herself. And I would say that it's been great because she has, where they put the super singles, she's got her friends on one side, and it's a small lounge, and then there are girls on the other side as well. So it's really kind of close knit, so she doesn't feel like she's alone. So that's great. And they hang out in the lounge. Right now, everybody's still masked, of course. I would say that the bathrooms, someone asked about the bathrooms being clean. The bathrooms are cleaned by staff. And I would say, just like any college experience, the kids have to get together and talk about how much extra clean they're going to get on top of how the school already provides cleanliness for the room. So I would say that handling it during pandemic, I feel like has been tremendous. I am a single parent with an only child, and really super protective, not a helicopter parent, but super protective. And I wasn't worried. And that says a lot. So I wasn't worried. One thing I will say about UHart, and it's important to say, and not just because I'm on the panel, is I like when businesses evolve. And one thing I could say is we've seen since the beginning of the pandemic, and now we've seen UHart always evolve to how improvements can be made, especially along the pandemic. When things needed to be a little bit more restricted, when it was time to open up, how food was done, how people were able to, live in the dorms and socialize. So it really worked out. I think they're opening, because of this evolution, they're opening more single opportunity for single rooms, even for freshmen. So I really think that I'm going to shut up now, but I really think that there's a lot of options, which is always good when you are considering what safety and comfort for your child and for you as a parent.
I saw some questions, an important topic, and something, I've been the parent of college students too. And that is about safety. I'll just throw this question out with this little piece of personal experience. My own daughter decided to go to the University of Hartford because of a specific academic program that we had in prosthetics and orthotics that she couldn't find anywhere else. And my own personal response, and then I'll be quiet, is the campus safe, is my own daughter lived on campus for 4 years. So there's no one more important to me than my daughter. She got no special treatment, no special protection, no special anything. And I never was once concerned for her safety. But do you parents want to talk about, some of you have daughters and some of you have sons, about your experience with with safety on campus and things like that.
I could share a story.
Sure.
So going back to freshman orientation, my husband and I were sitting with our son outside the Commons. There's some benches to sit on, and we were sitting there, and a security person came up to us and talked to us about his experience at working at the school and how much he loved it. And he turned to me and he said, "Mom, I know how much parents worry about their kids. I'm going to give you my cell phone number. And if you ever have a problem or your son ever has a problem, I want you to call me and I will make sure that your kid is okay." And I've never had to call him, but I was so impressed that he was willing to do that. And I felt really good about my son being there, even more so than we had known that it was already the right decision for us. I just thought that was really wonderful.
Just as a father of two daughters at school, I was always concerned about their safety. One of the first things that I noticed when we first toured the campus was the ability for the campus to close down, that they had gates on both ends and that they could close the campus if they ever needed to. And I just like that, just in case there was anything going on, that they needed to keep everybody inside there. But for our daughters being, if they have a late class or they're coming from a meeting somewhere, they could always call safety and get a ride home. And our daughters have done that a few times. And I have always felt comfortable. There's the phones everywhere that if they needed to call or anything, for a ride, that they were always there, always friendly, and have always helped our daughters with anything.
And the one last piece to that is that I love the most is the communication that comes from the university to our kids' cell phones. Even if it's like a weather-related emergency, our students are updated and they actually update us once they're updated. So I've loved that feature.
I also wanted to add, so like my husband's a retired New York City police officer. So he's always concerned about safety. And my daughter on campus, she's always reminding us like just how every couple of yards, there's these like safety, I don't know what they're called, but they're like, you can press for like an emergency. I don't know, what's that called, Victoria?
I think they're like the blue light boxes.
The blue light boxes.
Yeah.
So there's these like blue light boxes all over campus. And then my daughter has on numerous occasions, like had security drive her across to the other side of campus at night because she just, she was alone, And so, there's people that walk through the campus all the time, but to know that if a person is just feeling like they need, the security, the security is there. So, and I also wanted to like digress a little bit before when we were talking about like dorms. So, because my daughter did have like this whirlwind experience, like when she first was a freshman, she applied for, I don't know the name of the housing, but you have to like do an essay to be at that housing, the tall building. I don't know what's the name of the building, Victoria, I'm sorry.
Hawk Hall, I believe. Yep.
Okay, so she wanted to be in Hawk Hall. She set her mind to that. She didn't get in, and there began like this going from being like in a double to then trying to be with her whole team, and are we gonna live here? Are we gonna live there? Then the pandemic, and so regardless of all the like just changes and all the adjustments that everyone had to make, like in the end, there was always like a solution that was found. And through all of the adversity, like she really grew a lot. She had to ask herself a lot of questions and had to like, learn a lot of conflict resolution. And she had to also, just learn a lot of compromise. So I would say my advice is to just nothing is exactly how you expect, but it's good to just for your kids to come in with like an open mind and know that there will be like a resolution, and also for them to be ahead of the game and just putting in their forms, putting in their requests. You know, if you do things late and then you don't get the room or you don't get the space, so they have to learn how to advocate for themselves and to be responsible at the end of the day. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Grace. I did want to mention, as it relates to dorms and housing, that that there was another session specifically about housing and that process, because I see there are a lot of questions about the roommate process that was recorded, and it was held the other night. Is that right, Nick? Rick, a couple nights ago, and it's recorded.
Yep.
And families can access that on our the admission webpage.
Yep.
So I just want to put that out there.
I can give a 30-second thing. Some students find a roommate on social media, or else they can complete a questionnaire. And then what happens is students are matched according to lifestyle preferences. What kind of music do you listen to? What time do you go to bed? That sort of thing. Either one.
And one quick thing about this too that was new, I believe they did this a couple of weeks ago. Res Life, I think they had virtual meetups and in-person ones, socially distanced, where students could meet one another, those that were looking for a roommate, which was neat and something new that they did this year, which I think was a fantastic idea. And I'm sure that they're going to continue offering that type of opportunity in the future. So I thought that was really cool. So I just wanted to share that because that was new this year. Great idea on behalf of Res Life. There's a question about career development and internship opportunities, research, jobs. So I feel like that's a fantastic one to definitely have parents talk about. I know that several of you have some stories to share about your student-specific experience with research and internship opportunities and how much the university helped out in providing those or helping to make that connection for the student. So who would like to share about that first?
I can jump in if it's okay.
Yeah, thank you.
It's my favorite story to tell about Mason. You know, early on in, again, and I don't know if I clearly said it, he's an electromechanical engineering technologist is his track. And when he started his freshman year, within a few months, he was calling home to say he needed to get his sport jacket from home. And I thought, what on earth would you need that for at college? And he said, well, they're having, a career day. We're doing, mock interviews and we're doing our resumes. And I was like, wow, that's, great. And so he, went through that process. His internship, he was able to get his internship, meet with the company through a job fair that they had on campus. This company picked up his resume and they had interviewed him sophomore year, and he was selected to start his internship sophomore year. So he's been working at the same company each summer. And then just recently, it evolved into a full-time job offer. So he'll be going to work for the company he's been interning. I have to credit Mason's motivation, his focus on the program, and University of Hartford's focus on career development. It really, it wasn't a surprise to me. It was one of the things that they had talked about in our orientation when we were selecting the college. But sometimes you hear things they say and it's sort of, you're like, okay, well, they're saying that, but is it really going to come true? And we found that it did for him. And it was in talking with other friends of mine with kids of the same age, or even kids that they had older, their colleges hadn't even started down the path with resumes or college or career orientation. So we really felt lucky. It was really, again, it comes down to, your child's motivation. They have to want it. They have to seek it out and go through the interview process and do the work. But absolutely, the opportunities are there. And I can't say enough about the program because it really launched him. He's launching. So, that's a success. So thank you.
Maybe some of you can talk about this in broad terms. And Victoria, this is a question about, the various kinds of support that the university offers for students. academic support, health support, personal
Can
support.
I just, Rick, I don't mean to interrupt, because I just wanted to also, I wanted to share a Tiana story about internship and research.
Go ahead.
Before moving forward, because I just think it's important for me. So my daughter, who's a sophomore, and it was something that we were really concerned about, just because you don't want to just go to school and just have the degree. You want to have like real experiences that are going to prepare you for whatever your career is going to be, and you want to make sure like those opportunities are there. So like right now she was, as soon as she came in as a freshman, she was able to like build relationships with her professors, that then turned into shadowing opportunities for doing research in the neuroscience lab with Dr. Koob. And now she's actually, doing the research this year as a sophomore, which is quite amazing. And then, that relationship has also helped her secure like other internships outside of the school because of the connections that they're making, the letters of recommendation that are needed for those opportunities to happen. She's also been able through the pandemic to volunteer at the University of Hartford, which is, right down the road. And just having access to that is, I think, really amazing. And for her to be able to do it through the pandemic, and get the support of the school. And even through the pandemic, she was also getting EMR certified through the school. She was doing all these things that are helping her and just kind of paving the way for her to become a doctor. And, I can't emphasize enough how impressed I am with University of Hartford's response to the pandemic, because my daughter was on campus and I don't know any of my friends' kids that were on campus. They were all home. But my child was on campus in an apartment, living a college life as best as she could. She was still able to play sports and, get a research internship, volunteer. So I just wanted to share that story.
Thank you so much, Grace. I had originally talked about support, but I saw a great question here. And I know, Michelle, you live close to the campus and others live further away. But the question was about, I'll put it in quotation marks, what do you think about popping in on your kids?
Yeah, I have a great story, just a quick great story to say about that. Mason being our oldest, and he was first to college, we sent him off to college, moved him in, picked out all the things that they had on the to-do list to get him, got him all set up. Within a week, a month or so, month and a half, there was a time we had to go on campus to bring him some papers to sign that we needed. And we thought, okay, great, we'll take him to dinner and we'll hang out and we'll talk with him and see how, college is going. And we picked him up. And he had on this straight poker face, like no emotion, no acknowledgement. I mean, it was one syllable answers or no questions. He had our, and it became obvious, that he was just trying to keep that wall up. So the pop in kind of thing, when my husband and I drove away, we're like, oh, we think we did something bad. By popping in, but it was, as we, talked it through just between my husband and I, were like, it's just his way of keeping, he is already in the mode, he's going down that path. We wanted to encourage that. He's, trying his new independence, and just having us come into his life briefly, we were thinking we're 20 minutes away. What's the big deal? It kind of messed with his mojo, if you will. But everything was fine. He was safe. He would always call us and talk, about anything that he needed. And talking on the phone was fine. The popping in just maybe wasn't, like, at that time, it was too close to the beginning. But over the course of his years that he's been there, we occasionally see him. He comes home to see the dog more often than us. So it's, homesickness that kind of thing. No matter if you're 2 hours away or 20 minutes away, they're all just making their adjustment to college life. And it's a learning process for them and for parents. And so just, I think as we do, we just got to take it one day at a time and, and learn and follow their cues. They'll give you the cues for sure.
Yeah, I just want to say, our daughters, two very different students, two very different people involved in very different things. Both of them are way too busy for us to pop in on them. We really have to schedule when we can see them.
Go ahead, Victoria. There's a ton of questions.
Yes, I do think the support topic that you brought up was really great, though. So I do want to make sure that families get to hear a bit about that. So that could be related to the Accessibility Center, all the amazing support resources through the Center for Student Success, which there are many. So I'll leave it at that. And I know we have a couple of parents that can speak to that, like the first year seminar, first year advisors, Accessibility Center.
So
I could address. Oh, sorry, Celeste. You want to go first?
Sure, and then I'll be quick. So sure. I would say my daughter uses the Student for Center of Success. She uses what she calls PW, and I'm sorry, I don't know what it stands for, but it's peer tutoring, and she has a personal tutor. So she's able to go in and say, this is what I need for my education, and it's all available. There's a lot of options based on how your student studies. Renee?
So my son had an IEP all through public school. So when we were looking at colleges for him, that was one of the boxes that we wanted to check off for Jake, was that he would be able to still continue with academic success because he worked really hard to get to where he was. We were quite impressed with what support University of Hartford had to offer, and Jake's experience has been amazing. I will just tell you briefly, once Jake was accepted into the school and we were ready to go, that summer before in July, we went up with all his previous paperwork from his high school, and he had an appointment without me with the Student Support Center, and they put together a plan for him, and Jake talked about what supports he would need. The university talked about what they would be able to offer him. So it was definitely a very personalized plan. Freshman year, he had a weekly meeting with an advisor to help keep him on track. He also was able to access tutors at the university and the writing center, which was a tremendous help for the writing seminars he had to take. He still gets academic accommodations through testing, and it's up to him to let the professors know what his accommodations are and what he wants to have access to. He no longer has a coach, which he does not need, thankfully, but the school has a great place for the kids to get support at. I would not hesitate to send my child there at all if they need some sort of academic support.
Thank you, Renee and Celeste. Rick, I can throw another one out to the group.
Go ahead.
Okay. So there are actually a lot of questions, many, I think more repeat on this one, of items to bring to campus. And if the list that's provided to families really accurate, and should all those items be brought at the beginning or get half and then get the rest later? So what are your tips, veterans? And Celeste, I consider you veteran too.
Bring half of what's on the list. And they could, there's plenty close by that they could, there's a Target close by, you can order items, but we felt like our kids brought way too much, even though we tried to cut the list down. I don't know what other people's experience is though.
Yeah, from what gets returned every semester, or after the end of the year, and left at home. Originally, we got things on the list. One of the best things he's had every year that's a real workhorse is a collapsible laundry basket. One that isn't the mesh, don't get the mesh because that rips and falls apart. But there was a collapsible one that was pretty good. So that's been a trooper through all 4 years. That's a big one. He thought initially he was going to need some kind of extra dresser drawers for clothing, because he just saw the closets and then he saw the beds and he wasn't sure. He didn't want just boxes or plastic drawers. And so we got something at IKEA and assembled it, and it was heavy and it was a waste of time. I mean, it survived the first semester or first year, I think, but then never went back to college after that because it was too much. I mean, they end up managing with the space that they have, because you just bring the next year half of what you brought the first year, but you kind of have to, wing it. And just one of those bedside caddies that can kind of hook onto the mattress and hangs to the side for Mason, just to have, they have their phone and their earbuds and their whatever business right next to them. That was a big thing, because there's not a lot of, like, at least in freshman dorms, there's not like a nightstand right near the bed, because a lot of times they have it raised. So those were just small items that I know were the big big items, that
Extension
lasted.
cord. That's the one thing we'll add. Extension cord.
Extension
We need
cords, yeah.
extension cord.
Right.
I remember too, my daughter telling me to leave the winter clothes home for a while. Don't fill up your closet with winter clothes in September and October and November. There's plenty of time to swap them out when the weather starts to change.
Can I just say one thing about that? A lot of people think that, you have to have all this food in the kids' rooms. We don't want our kids to be hungry, and stock up, store up, have a fridge, have this. Food is so accessible to them that they don't need that kind of food in their room. And, we were guilty in the freshman year, but we sent them with nothing after that. So, and they've been fine.
I would also say that, but definitely that, not that I support any brand, but the Tempur-Pedic mattress cover, my daughter was like, this is the best thing ever. So definitely some sort of thick mattress pad would be helpful.
The mattress topper. Yeah, the 3-inch mattress topper.
Yeah, the topper. Definitely splurge on that. The other thing is that a friend of mine told me, they have all, and Michelle spoke to the laundry basket, but they have all of these fancy laundry baskets. But what my daughter loves the most is a duffel bag with like a backpack. And they have the expensive ones, but then they have the Army Navy store, and it's like less than $20, and it's 100% durable. So save yourself some money, and I would definitely do that. Do that. So those are the two things as far as what to bring, but definitely bring half the clothes that you thought that you were going to bring, and just make sure that you know how to do laundry. Do laundry every week. I don't know about the other parents, but my daughter does laundry, tries to do laundry once a week.
I did see a lot of questions, answer very quickly, and then some of you can jump in. You are allowed to bring a car to campus the first year, simply because we have about the number of parking spaces available for about the number of people who bring cars. I know some of you have, your children have cars, maybe not everybody. That was asked so many times. I don't know if anybody wants to talk about that.
I can say that. I actually typed something, and I'm trying to answer some questions while I'm listening. My daughter didn't have a car freshman year. And it wasn't like she was like, oh my God, I need a car. But then when she had the car, it was like, wow, that's a huge difference. She wouldn't be able to volunteer right now if she didn't have the car. If she did, it would be like really expensive Uber back and forth. But like having the car is really, really gives them a lot of freedom. There's close by, everything's safe. So she's able to like run to Target and get essentials. She's able to go to Blueback, which if you haven't heard about that, that's like an awesome little district with beautiful restaurants, shopping, very, very safe, family oriented, people walking dogs, great place for your student to go and like, have dinner with like their friends. So having a car is wonderful. My daughter feels like her car is safe on campus. Parking is a little tricky, but where is parking never tricky? It's worth every penny for the parking fee, which is like $400 or more. I don't know what it is. But yeah, having a car on campus is awesome. And Hartford is a great place to feel safe that your kid is driving around.
I would jump in and agree. Mason's experience, I think he just didn't have his car the first semester of freshman year. And then he wanted to have it on campus. So we kind of made a deal with him that he would pay the parking fee because we were, so close. And it's just been, that's his thing to have it. And the challenge is just trying to jockey for the parking spot closest. But with his internship that he got his sophomore year, he was able to obviously not work during the summer for the internship, but then he maintained a relationship with the company through the course of the year, through his semesters, and was able to go up and work a day or two of the week when he didn't have classes or an afternoon or so, because he had the car. So it really speaks to the flexibility. It adds flexibility. And we're lucky, University of Hartford has the space. A lot of colleges don't for freshmen. But as far as safety wise, we never had an issue. It's just a long walk out to the farthest part when your car gets stuck way out in the hinterland. But yeah.
I would just add to what they both said. My daughter doesn't have a car. Well, she has one here at home. I don't intend on sending her back in her second year with a car. You can get around without it. So I just, for those folks that says, oh my God, my kid doesn't have a car, we can't afford it. There's a lot to do on campus, and the shuttle buses will take you to shopping and things like that as well. So I just want to speak from the other perspective that you don't need a car on campus to have a full life, at least what we've found so far. But remember, we're the freshmen.
Yeah, no, it's true.
I have one daughter who does clinical 2 days a week, and she absolutely needs a car. And also, she's kind of a homebody, so she needs the comfort of her car so that she has the freedom to come home, spend a night at home, and then go back to school. So for us, it's the best thing that ever happened to her is having her.
But he didn't have a car till junior year.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm glad that Celeste brought up the fact about the shuttles, because that is an important piece. If you don't have a car on campus, there's still ways to go out and about and experience things off campus. And there's so much to do right outside of campus within 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So we did have a question about acceptance on campus. What is that kind of environment like? Coming, if you're maybe, a little bit different, what is that like? And from the parent perspective, how have you felt your student has been accepted? So are there any parents that are comfortable, have a story that they can share to that?
I can share. So we're, I'm Puerto Rican. My daughter, when she was, since she was really young, she's been playing lacrosse, which is not a very diverse sport. So when she was being recruited and she had a lot of choices of where to go, one of the things that attracted her to University of Hartford was the fact that she felt the diversity. And it's not to say it's as diverse as it could be. Everyone can work to be more diverse, but in comparison to many other places that she could have gone, it really is, for her, very diverse. And for example, her team, the University of Hartford women's lacrosse team, is one of the most diverse teams for Division I lacrosse in the United States. So if you looked up at the diversity of, she makes it a point to recruit and to be inclusive. My daughter has friends that are part of, I'm not sure the name of it, but it's I don't know if it's BLSU. I know there's different names in different colleges, but she attends all of their events and their fashion shows, and she loves it. She loves just to have that feeling. She also shared with me this story, which touched my heart. She was telling me, she was like, Mom, college is so different from high school. All the things that people that people cared about in high school, people don't care about that in college. Mm-hmm. And she was speaking about this young man who had disabilities, and I don't know what his limitations were, but she's like, everyone knows him. He walks around and he's just like anybody else. It's just incredible to her how just certain things just don't matter. And I'm not saying it's just all, rainbows and butterflies, but I can say that diversity was something that was important to us. That was one of the reasons we're at University of Hartford. It's one of the reasons she's on that lacrosse team. And my daughter does feel like when she looks around, she feels like, you know, there's a certain level of acceptance that she didn't experience in other places.
I was wondering when Celeste is going to give out the 10% coupons for Tempur-Pedic.
Yeah, I have them in my back pocket, just so you know. Getting a cut from it.
What else, Victoria, do we want to throw their way?
Well, there's so many great questions, and I'm just comforted knowing that we have colleagues on the back end that are helping to answer the questions in the chat. So that makes me feel good. And some of you parents also have been answering questions. Thank you so much for doing that. So I think what we should do, Rick, is go back to that very first question that you brought up. So I think that's a really great way to wrap up in the last 3 minutes that we have. So the question was something to the effect of, you know, basically general advice. What is something that, you know, we wouldn't know that we should know, or, oh, you wish that someone would have told you before your students started their freshman year experience?
Yeah,
so we can just kind of bop around, whoever wants to share those final words of wisdom, anything that we just haven't discussed.
Yeah, it was phrased very wonderfully by a parent named Nancy, and it exactly is, what should we know or be aware of that we haven't thought about?
Perfect. I'm glad you digged it up, Rick. Thank you.
Yeah, another way to put it is, what do you wish someone would have told you if you were sitting in the audience for this thing tonight? You know, what's the one thing that you wish someone would have told you?
I could address that. I never thought about an emergency plan or asking at a university what would happen if there was a global pandemic. And I don't know like how you can ask that. I can only say that we have been so tremendously impressed by the way that the university has handled COVID. Not only last year, but this year, it just, and I have another student in college, and so I have some comparison to go by. But also to know, because they have handled this so well, that I have all the faith in the world that they now have a running track record, and that if there was some sort of other emergency, that they would handle it equally as well.
And I would say that there's a lot of communication. I did not expect it, but it's appreciated, to tap onto what Renee said, from the organization. And I think Michelle also said, or maybe it was Danielle, that when your students are aware and informed, pretty much soon after we get an email and says, this is what's been communicated to your students. So the communication is tremendous. I had not expected that. And I think it's awesome. Also, as parents, there are a lot of information sessions that talk about a lot of the things you have questions about. But please participate. There's just tons of opportunity to ask a lot of questions about rooming and roommates. And I know there are all kinds of those sessions. So really participate. And my daughter said that there's so much out there for students that you just got to jump in. You know, like there are food truck themes every weekend. We didn't talk about the free food trucks with different themes that are amazing. So there's a lot of things out there, tie-dye making. So just, you know, somebody asked about what do you do for a shy student? Just show up to one of these events, and you can show up by yourself if you want. And before you know it, you meet other people. So just, I think the theme I want to leave you guys with personally is just be there, like be there because it's available for you.
Hey, so I'd like to jump in on what Les just said, because I didn't get a chance to say, but this is the kind of thing I didn't expect at the start of our, his college career, was the opportunities to get involved. And Mason found this wonderful club, the Formula SAE, and he's kind of been a gearhead, tinkering around. But it was just a club that was off campus. It's not a division sport team, but it was something that it takes in everybody that has an interest, and everybody can find a part of this car they can be in charge of or be a part of. So it's not like you have to be expert at everything. It's just a piece that you learn, and it's a team that works together. And it's kind of has an off-campus feel because they have a shop that company has sponsored the team to donate the shop space. So it gave Mason an outlet, and and his friends an outlet to go off campus to be working on a car, kind of have space, have camaraderie. And it's a really welcoming committee. Our group, he's going to be sad to leave it, and I'm so excited he gets to compete finally in June. They've been planning the car for 3 years, but they're looking for freshmen. And he said that there's a need to get new blood into the club because a few of them are graduating. But it's one of those opportunities. It's what the college has, is it encourage your freshmen to, go out there, look at something outside their box, of interest, that a normal interest, and just I know that they do have fairs, kind of a gathering where you can have the different clubs, the different organizations, different activities will have tables, and you can go up to. So I'd encourage any freshmen to go and check things out. But yeah, Formula SAE. The team. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'll jump in. It was kind of a hard question for me, just because I was like, oh, what is there something? It's more of me. I could share a lot of the things that I love about University of Hartford. For my daughter, it was, there wasn't any glaring thing. One thing I would say is that having your children like advocate for themselves is very, very important. And for them to know, like, not everything's set in stone. Like, my daughter had her first advisor, and she kind of felt like, oh, this is my advisor, and I have to kind of stick with this. But I just kind of guided her to just ask, and she was surprised at how easily that you can change your advisor. You don't like your situation you're in. She's a pre-med, but she was actually, when we toured the school at that time, she was toward the art school. And then she thought of engineering. And then she said, no, I want to be a doctor. So it was awesome for her to be at the University of Hartford, and because the school has so many different colleges, so many different, you can really, really explore what you want and do a giant change and still be kind of like at home. But it's important that they advocate for themselves and that they take advantage of all that the school has to offer, because it's there. You just have to go and get it.
Were you going to say something, Danielle? You're nodding your head.
No, I agree with everyone. The one thing I will say is I am amazed at how much the University of Hartford does communicate, so much so that my kids know where they have to go to get what answers, or to get what support, or to get what help they need. And I thought when my oldest went to college that I was going to have to help her navigate those things, but it is abundantly clear to them where they have to go and how they get their support. So it's there, they will do it, and they will do it great.
Rick, I wanted to mention two things just to piggyback off of things that were just discussed. So Celeste had mentioned the information sessions that are offered for parents year round. They're called Parent Hour webinars. So you can go onto the hartford.edu/parents webpage, and you will find a tab there called Parent Hour webinars. We record all of our sessions, so you can go back and take a look at a variety of topics at any time. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was our Office of Student Engagement and Inclusion. So for anybody who maybe misses the activities fair, you can go to that office and talk to the staff members or the student workers about all the different clubs and volunteer opportunities and ways to be engaged and involved on campus at that office at any time. So Office of Student Engagement and Inclusion.
Very good. So it's hard to believe, but we've been at this for a little bit over an hour, and I think we probably could have done another hour. let me just thank our parents there, one and all, for giving your time tonight. You can see there are comments about how wonderful this was, and and that sort of thing. So from me, thank you, parents. Thank you, parents of our class of 25, who will be sending their sons and daughters to us in the fall. If there are questions that we did not answer, there are 2 places you can email. You can email the general admission account, which is admission, no S, admission@hartford.edu. If you'd like to send a question directly to me, I would be happy to answer your questions. My email is Zeiser, Z-E-I-S-E-R. You can find it on the webpage at hartford.edu. And we can also, if there are questions for parents, I'll funnel them over to Victoria, and she can get them answered for you by email or telephone or Zoom or whatever else. Any closing comments, Victoria?
Well, everyone can also find my contact information on our webpage, but my email is sandoval@hartford.edu. Feel free to contact me as well. And if I don't have the direct answer, I will definitely point you in the right direction. But yeah, this has been great, really helpful, such wonderful questions. And we look forward to welcoming all of you this fall.
Yep. So thank you. Stay safe. And we hope to see many of you. Maybe some of you will do this panel next year. Who knows?
Yeah,
That's right. So when I
Right?
reach out, respond
Good.
to my email.
Right.
Good luck
Okay.
to everybody. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye, good night,
Good night.
everyone.